Welcome to Inside China Politics. I'm Deng Yuwen. This channel breaks down China's politics and leadership dynamics in a clear and accessible way. From elite power struggles to US-China relations, Taiwan issues, and the deeper logic behind Beijing's decisions. If you want to truly understand what is happening inside China's political system, you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to talk about the US arresting Maduro. The topic I want to discuss is that after the capture of Maduro, is the United States dismantling the world it built. Although the United States set a precedent 20 years ago by invading Panama and capturing its leader, Washington's decision, on the second day of 2026, to seize Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro from his bed, without a declaration of war and without congressional authorization, still sent shockwaves through the international community. Even if the United States does not recognize Maduro as Venezuela's legitimate president, the manner of his capture represents a troubling example for international relations and the international system. It is doubtful that it ultimately serves U.S. interests either. In the short term, the operation looks like a clear success. The deterrent effect was immediate. The Western Hemisphere was shaken, and Washington's opponents were caught off guard. But the real issue is not Venezuela or even Latin America. The deeper problem is that this approach damages America's moral standing and erodes the international order that the United States itself helped create. Viewed through the longer lens of intensifying great power competition, the capture of Maduro reflects a broader and more consequential trend. The post-World War II international order, long led by the United States, is being dismantled not by external challengers alone, but increasingly by Washington's own actions. This is not simply the result of rising competitors. It is the outcome of a United States that is losing patience with the value of order itself under the pressure of strategic rivalry. After the Cold War, American global leadership rested on more than superior power. It depended on embedding that power within a system of rules. Those rules were never designed primarily to constrain weaker states. Their true function was to restrain the impulses of the strong and to reduce insecurity, especially among smaller countries. That restraint is what made American power broadly acceptable, its alliances stable, and the international system relatively predictable, even amid conflict. By bypassing established procedures and forcibly removing the leader of a sovereign state, however dysfunctional that regime may be, Washington has set in motion a series of consequences that will unfold over time. First, America's moral authority is being steadily eroded. U.S. leadership has long rested not only on military and economic power, but also on a widely accepted narrative centered on the rule of law, due process, restraint, and multilateralism. By privileging enforceable coercion over defensible procedure, this action signals that rules can be set aside when they become inconvenient. Allies may not immediately defect, but they will hesitate the next time Washington seeks mobilization. Moral authority, once weakened, is difficult to restore. Second, international norms are being hollowed out. Rules do not exist merely because they are written down. They survive because they are repeatedly observed, especially by the strongest actors. When a great power crosses its own red lines, norms cease to function as constraints and instead become instruments. The message sent is clear. When rules conflict with strategic objectives, they can be suspended. The result is not greater respect for norms, but a faster slide toward power-based calculations. Third, a dangerous precedent is being normalized. Washington may view this operation as an exception, but others will see a template. Once the idea takes hold that national leaders can be forcibly removed across borders without a formal state of war, security dilemmas intensify. States will rely more heavily on hard deterrence, trust diplomacy less, and face rising risks of miscalculation. Fourth, bloc politics will harden rather than stabilize. In the short term, allies may cluster more tightly around the United States out of fear of a world where coercive action becomes routine. But this cohesion is driven by risk avoidance, not shared values. Over time, more states will pursue ensured neutrality, avoiding direct security confrontation with Washington, while diversifying their economic and institutional dependencies. Such dynamics undermine the openness and predictability of the alliance system the United States depends on. Fifth, the logic of competition becomes increasingly irreversible. As rules retreat and power takes center stage, rivalry is more easily framed as a zero-sum contest. Sanctions, countermeasures, and strategic hedging become default tools, while diplomatic space narrows. For the United States, this means that competition with major powers like China edges closer to systemic confrontation. Short-term pressure may work, but long-term risks escalate. Taken together, the operation does deliver immediate gains. It likely strengthens U.S. leverage over Venezuela's energy resources and reasserts American dominance in the Western Hemisphere. But the costs have begun to accumulate from the moment Maduro was captured. Moral capital is depleted, rules are instrumentalized, and the system becomes more unstable. Over time, the United States will be forced to devote greater resources to managing disorder. Today's international system is neither the bipolar order of the Cold War, nor the unipolar moment that followed it. Great power competition has returned as the defining condition, and with it, higher risks of conflict and war. In such an environment, replacing rules with raw power may appear decisive, but it is ultimately more dangerous. Rules offer states a basic assurance. Even in defeat, survival is not at stake. Power politics send a very different signal. Once a core interest of a major power is crossed, outcomes depend entirely on that power's judgment and mood. Trust erodes, deterrence expands, and the likelihood of miscalculation rises. The world does not become safer. It becomes more volatile. The first to feel this insecurity are smaller and middle-sized states entangled in great power competition. Unable to shape rules and incapable of defending themselves through power alone, they respond by hedging and dispersing risk. When major powers abandon self-restraint, these states experience not the benefits of order, but the anxiety of survival. America's ability to mobilize allies will also weaken. Support will come with reservations, cooperation with conditions. Such alliances may endure in calm periods, but their reliability in systemic crises will be sharply reduced. The irony is that this shift comes at a moment when U.S. relative power is already in decline, economically, industrially, and in its capacity to shape global agendas. Rules are meant to amplify advantages and manage decline. Power alone magnifies uncertainty. History suggests that great powers rarely fall because their strength suddenly collapses. More often, decline begins when they lose confidence in the rules they created. In this sense, the capture of Maduro may mark a turning point, not simply for Venezuela or Latin America, but for an international order the United States once built and is now, in practice, beginning to dismantle. This has been Inside China Politics. If you found this analysis helpful, please subscribe, like, and share the channel. Your support helps more people understand what's really happening inside China's political system. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.